Welcome, I'm Black Knight 3022, and this is the first in a 10-part series covering the basic TTPs taught by the Marine Corps. TTPs stands for Training Techniques and Procedures. This 10-part series is going to cover ops terms and graphics, formations, immediate action drills, squad attack, squad ambush, squad patrols, platoon attacks, raids, platoon defense, and finally mount. Now, to begin with ops terms and graphics, and for the entire course, we're going to assume that the listeners know next to nothing about accurate military training. That way we can start with a solid base, build from the ground up, and everyone will be on the same page. Now, operational graphics are how we show on a map or a picture what we're talking about in a very simplified sense, and graphically. In this graphic, you can see all of the NATO graphics, or at least most of them. It can be pretty overwhelming if you've never seen it before. What we're going to primarily focus on is the infantry. The infantry you can see in the top left corner, it's the first one, and it's just a rectangle with two diagonal lines in it creating an X. That's how we show an infantry type unit. Now these infantry type units can be different sizes. In this graphic, we can see how we designate those different sizes. Squad is 1 dot, 2 squads, also known as a section, is 2 dots, and a platoon is 3 dots. The most I'm ever going to use in my operation in terms of graphics in these videos are a company, which is a hash mark. And it'll be pretty rare to see an entire company together. So we can focus on just squads, sections, and platoons. Now, in this graphic, you're going to see several things. At first, we're going to focus on the left side. Now, if you're using friendly units, it's always going to be a rectangle. And typically, if you have the ability to color it, it's going to be blue. Now, on the left side, we see an infantry company broken down into its elements. The infantry company is the topmost rectangle, has that hash mark above it to represent it's an infantry company. And then branching off from each of that is 3 infantry platoons. Platoons are designated by 3 dots above the graphic. Now on the rightmost platoon, you can see it further broken down by squads. Each squad is the exact same symbol with a dot, a single dot above it. Now on the right side of this graphic, you're going to see how we represent enemy size and enemy forces. When we have the ability to color it, it's going to be red. But many times we might not have the ability to color it, so we use diamonds instead of rectangles. What goes inside the symbol is still going to be the same. An infantry unit is still represented by a cross, an X. Now, there might be other times where we have an infantry platoon, but not quite, or maybe an infantry squad, but a little bit more. We call that understrength or reinforced. In the top left of the enemy side, you're going to see 3 dots, but then a minus symbol next to the 3 dots. That represents it's an infantry platoon minus, or infantry platoon under strength. They might be under strength because they detached a fire team or a squad, or they might be under strength due to casualties. Now the center one is a squad reinforced. What that could mean is they could have a machine gun team, they might have an extra fire team, whatever the purpose, it is an extra size more than just what a typical squad is. Other times, we might not know exactly what the enemy size is, but we do know that there are enemy operating in the area. We simply do a question mark above it to say, hey, we know that they're operating here, we know that they're in this general area, but we don't know what size unit it is. Now we've got 2 more things to cover, first of which is going to be weapon systems. This diagram is kind of poor to show different types of weapon systems, but it's good visual representation. So we're going to focus on the first 5 of these, first of which is automatic weapons. Pretty much ignore automatic weapons, think machine guns. Now, while a single arrow with no hash marks is an automatic weapon, you usually aren't going to see it represented like that. Nobody wants to actually point out an individual rifleman that has a M4A1 or an AK, something that's capable of fully automatic fire. What you're going to see these used for is representing machine guns. Now, machine guns are considered light, medium, or heavy. A light machine gun is something like a SAW, something that's firing 5.56. Medium is something that's usually a 7.62 machine gun, like a RPK, PKM, M240, M60, something like that. And then when you have your heavy machine guns, you're really talking about 50 caliber, 12.7mm machine guns, typically crew served weapons mounted on trucks or tripods, that kind of thing. Now the way we represent a machine gun is an arrow, just like you see on that first section at the top. And we represent light by having a hash mark, single hash mark, medium machine gun by having 2 hash marks, and a heavy machine gun by having 3 hash marks. Now I know that differs from this graphic we see here, but the reason this graphic has small, medium, and large, and the small having no hash marks, is because that's representing just an automatic rifle. Now moving on, we're going to skip anti-tank weapons because that's talking about something that you'd see in World War II, like a actual fixed pack gun, something like that. The rockets, you're going to have 2 arrows instead of just a single one. Now rockets can again be designated light, medium, heavy, but we're going to really forgo explanation on that. If you see something with 2 arrows, that's going to be a rocket launcher. Something like a Law AT-4 RPG, something like that. And then finally, we're going to talk about indirect fire. Those are mortar systems. That's all it is. Now in this, we see a circle at the bottom of a line. I've always seen it with a circle, line, arrow. Both work. If you see that circle at the bottom, that usually means it's a mortar. Also not going to be artillery. Artillery is going to represent with just a single dot, no line. So we'll talk about mortars here. Mortars can again be classified as light, medium, and heavy mortars. A light mortar is usually going to be a 60 millimeter mortar. A medium mortar is going to be a 81, 82 millimeter, depending on the nation. And then a heavy mortar is going to be typically 120 millimeters. Now, the way we represent them is the exact same as machine guns. You're going to use the mortar graphic, and then a single hash mark is light, 2 hash marks is medium, and 3 hash marks is large. The last thing we're going to go over is how to represent individual soldiers on a map or on a graphic. Here we see a rifle squad. Rifle squads can vary drastically from nation to branch, service, how much actual troops you have. You can rearrange how your squads are set up, etc. So we're going to go with this one just for teaching purposes. This is a rifle squad which has 2 fire teams of 5 with a single squad leader leading. Now the squad leader, I know it can get confusing with the infantry kind of thing, but a squad leader is a circle with an X in the center. Now if we look at the fire team, we'll just go left to right. You have a team leader, which is a single line, diagonal line through it, showing team leader instead of squad leader. Next to him is a empty circle. That's a rifleman. He just has his rifle. Moving to the right of that is the automatic rifleman, usually carrying a light machine gun of some sort. Next to that is a circle with an A in it. That is the assistant automatic rifleman, usually carries extra ammunition, maybe a spare barrel for the automatic rifleman. And finally, you're going to have a grenadier, marked with a circle with a G in it. Grenadier is usually going to carry an M203 or an M79, some kind of grenade launcher. Now moving on to this last graphic, this is just an example of how these symbols can actually be used. Here we see an unknown enemy infantry on the right side, and then an enemy infantry squad on the left side across the river. We've got a friendly platoon to work with, which obviously has a medium machine gun. Here, we've set up the medium machine gun to look down the open pathway across the river, to hopefully be able to provide a little bit of offset and some fires to help suppress an enemy that we know is on the other side of that river. Then we have 2 infantry squads moving to the edge of the river, and then they're going to get to the edge of the river and probably attack by fire to that enemy infantry squad until it either withdraws or is destroyed. Then we have finally a friendly infantry squad to the right of the medium machine gun, which is probably there just to provide security for that medium machine gun on the right side, just in case that enemy does exist on that island in the center. Okay, and that's it for operational terms and graphics. Hope that was helpful, and I know it was a little bit basic, but hopefully it'll provide a good base that we can build up from here. Next episode is going to be on formations, both the squad and platoon levels.